Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a quick first impressions video for you on a couple of Civivi knives. I feel like I've got a bunch of first impressions videos going up right now. It's one of those things where it goes in cycles. After a while, it'll calm down a little bit. So bear with me if you're not a huge fan of first impressions. If you like the reviews better or other stuff better, that's okay. We'll get back to that stuff soon. I should be done with first impressions here shortly. Anyway, I do have a couple of Civivi knives that I want to share with you. And here they are. So what we have is the Stratera and the Anthropos. I've heard a couple of people not know how to pronounce this. Anthropos is just Greek for man, and you say it like that, Anthropos. I'm sure, Nico, if you're watching, you can correct my pronunciation down in the comments. So let me go ahead and grab these two knives, and I'll give you a quick rundown on the two of them. Oh, there we go. There is the one everybody's been waiting for, the Anthropos, and here is the other one, the I always want to say this one wrong, Stratera. I promise you I'm going to say that wrong at least one more time before I get finished with this video. This is the one that everyone is sort of talking about, the Anthropos. Very, very interesting design done by Elijah Isham. I'll give you a quick rundown here on what we've got in terms of materials. So we've got a D2 blade up front with a nice high flat grind, a little bit of a swedge here. I really like how the blade sort of follows. There's a bit of a curvature here that follows the blade profile. 3 1/4 inch blade length here. So it's actually, even though this is quite a small knife, it's got about the same blade that you would be getting on a Para 2. Now, one thing I will say about this is it would have been interesting to see them put even more cutting edge here. Like if they had opted out of this finger choil and made this part of the cutting edge as well, although perhaps they didn't do that because the blade could cut you at the back. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, D2 blade with a satin finish. Nice little cutout here. We have a bearing pivot system like we're used to seeing on the Wii knives. And there we go. This one is very quick and very smooth, although the detent on this, I will say this, I'm going to give you guys a little complaint first, initially out of box. Right, and that's what this is supposed to be, a first impression. I've had this for about a day actually, but when I first got this out of the box, I could not open it. All right, the detent was so hard. Whoops. The detent was so stiff that I actually couldn't consistently get the knife to open, and ended up, both my fingers actually were all red and chewed up here because the detent on this is so stiff. Now, to me, that is a little overboard, okay? Now, since that time, a couple of things that I've done. One, I've sat here and just done this over and over again, just broke it out of the detent, trying to wear that hole out just a little bit. The other thing I've done is oiled the detent ball, and both of those things did help out. So now it's not quite as bad, but I would still argue that the detent is a little too thick or a little too strong, especially given the location of this flipper tab, similar to the flipper tab on the Zeta, and it does take a little bit of getting used to. I don't hate it. In fact, there are some things that I kind of like about it, but it's definitely not what you're used to. So if we switch over to this one, I can just naturally put my finger on there and flip the knife open. I don't have to give it any thought, and I'm pretty sure I could hand this to just about anyone, and they could do the same thing. All right, not so with the Anthropos. There's a bit of a learning curve there. You sort of have to figure out where to get your hand in order to get the knife to flip open consistently. And that is my biggest first impression, that that's the thing that stands out to me the most, is the detent is really, really stiff. In terms of how this thing fits in hand, it's pretty good. I would have liked to, the way it tapers down here, it's not the most comfortable knife I've ever felt before, although it is much more comfortable in the choked up position. So with your finger up here in this sort of half choil, it's actually really nice in this position. And from that perspective, in that particular grip, I would actually say the ergonomics are really good. Just in the sort of backed off grip, definitely not a fan. Okay, so otherwise, all right, we've got, yeah, see, very stiff. We've got a liner lock here, deep carry pocket clip that is repositionable to either side. G10 backspacer, carbon fiber over G10, sort of a laminate carbon fiber going on there with a nice little design. So I have to say this, really, really nice looking knife. No question about it. The design here is a real win. And this is probably, out of all the things that Elijah Isham has done, I think this is probably my favorite of his designs. Very, very attractive. This knife is a little smaller than I like, but that said, you know, I think a lot of people are really going to like this, especially assuming, now I'm assuming here that mine is a little crazy, that the detent is overly stiff and that most of them are not like that. Now, if all of them have that crazy stiff detent, that's going to be an issue. And I think Wee's going to get a lot of them sent back. Hopefully that's not the case. Oh yeah, I guess I should have given you size and weight on this. Sorry guys, I'm forgetting to do my job here. So 7 7/16 is the overall length. 3 1/4 is the blade length, which is also, by the way, the cutting edge length. 4 3/16 on the overall handle size. All right, now the grip area is only 3 3/8, and so if you have larger hands, perhaps like me, you may not have quite enough grip area on this knife. The weight is a very comfortable 3.2 ounces, and let's see if we can take a look in there. I can see it, I think you can too, right there. So this has been milled out to save a little bit of weight, and that's always a nice feature. So really, really beautiful design. I'll have to update you when we get to the full review on whether or not the detent broke into a point that I can recommend this knife or not. All right, moving on to the Stratera. Okay, so this is another knife that when I first saw it from Wee, I was pretty interested. I really like the overall aesthetic on this knife, and I will say this, it's very comfortable in hand. The blade stock is a little thin. Okay, let me give you a quick rundown once again. So we've got D2 steel here with a bead blast finish, and I will say this, maybe it's a stonewash finish. I don't know, guys, what do you think? Maybe a bead stone finish, or maybe a stone wash with some really fine aggregate or something. Anyway, not a bad looking blade. I'm not sure. I would rather have seen this in a satin finish because of the propensity that D2 has for corrosion. Moving down here, we've got the same kind of handle that we had on the Anthropos, where it's carbon fiber over G10. Liner lock. The gold here does fit nicely with this overall design because of the tan, and it's picked up there in the pivot as well as the hardware. So that's kind of a nice touch. We've got a small backspacer here and a single dual position titanium pocket clip. Again, this is one of the more expensive of Wee's budget knives, so this guy is going to have the nicer pivot, at least I'm assuming so, and it feels pretty darn smooth. In terms of I guess I should give you the sizes on this. I don't know why I don't want to tell you guys the specs on these knives today. Let me go ahead and tell you the specs on this one. We have 8 1/16, so just a hair over 8 inches, 4 5/8 on the handle, 3.5 inches of blade, 3 3/4 inches of grip area, all right, and weighs in at 3.7 ounces. We also have that nice little choil there, which I do rather appreciate. Fairly thin blade stock that we're dealing with there. I think I already mentioned that once. My overall impression of this knife is, yeah, this is definitely a pretty well done knife. I mean, the blade stock is not overly thick. It's ground well behind the edge. Slightly nicer clip there. I'm surprised that we haven't seen more of these Wee clips. And I mentioned this in my last Civivi review, I think. I'm surprised we haven't seen more colors on these clips. It seems like a pretty natural aftermarket change to anodize those clips a different color. So overall impression, yeah, really, really nice, really comfortable EDC knife. I could see people really, really liking this guy an awful lot. I certainly like the look of it. Feels good in hand. The action is really, really nice. So I expect this one to be quite popular. And certainly as I compare the two of these, I've got to say I'm much more drawn to this one because it flips very comfortably, and I don't feel like I should put a Band-Aid on my finger after I've flipped it 2 or 3 times. Where this one, yeah, oh man, yeah, it is really, really stiff. All right, there you go, guys. Those are my thoughts on those two knives. Go over to White Mountain Knives and pick them up for yourself if you're going to get one. I know they still have a few of these. Not sure how many of these they have in stock, as these guys were pretty popular. So anyway, if not, you can always wait a little bit, and I'm sure Justin will have more. Use my discount code SHARPSTUFF and you can get 10% off. In addition to that, Thanks a lot for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these two knives. Which one do you like better? Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.